Questions? First about what we talked about so far, and then we'll continue onwards. Yes.
What's the difference between the broken vessels that were after the breaking of the vessels and the broken vessels that were created after the breaking of Adam HaRishon?
There's worlds and there are souls. Worlds are the whole development of Malchut of Ein Sof until its Malchut, until here. That is phase 4, it's already the created being. Within the created being, we have the first 9, which the created being includes. He gets incorporated in how the creator relates to him, and it has its own Malchut, which is him himself, the one that cannot absorb here in this central point of phase 4 any bestowal from the creator, and can only feel the pleasure or lack of pleasure, but not that there is a bestower that's bestowing this, that wants for his benefit, that this bestower has something, meaning completely a beast. Even a beast of this world feels a person, yes? It has some kind of belonging to these sparks of bestowal. So, actually, the created being is this black point here, which is completely distant from the creator. And it does not, you don't correct this black point, there's nothing you can do, because all the rest of the incorporations of the creator and the created being in the first 9 is at the expense of the creator. He penetrated himself into the created being there. Meaning that the fact that we're making here all kinds of calculations and receivings of light in all of these partsufim is considered the partsufim of the worlds, where altogether it's not Malchut of Ein Sof that's working. It can't here altogether be connected in this whole process. She didn't receive any understanding about bestowal, but rather the first 9 work. And in the first 9 that work, what are they actually doing? They are restricted to the extent of their ability to transfer lights or not to transfer lights. Meaning, the worlds are the first 9 that are here, the first 9 worked in order to pass along all the light to Malchut, and Malchut received and was filled with all the light. And after the restriction around this point, the worlds were made where these worlds were concealments. They conceal the upper light. Gradually, they truly conceal him until they reach Malchut, and Malchut is in darkness. This means that the system of the worlds builds itself around this central point, around the created being, in such a way that the created being will receive light to the extent in which he adapts himself to the light. Meaning, if this Malchut could receive some qualities of bestowal, to that extent, the worlds will transfer to Malchut light. And if this Malchut will not be able to receive the qualities to bestow, then these worlds will become around her only as darkness. This is first and foremost. We build this blocking system, so to speak. And then when we built this pausing, this breaking system, where did we build it? We built it here, when we finished with the world of Atzilut, in the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Nasiyah. Now, you can connect the central point, which is the actual created being, with the first nine. Connect it in what way? A very artificial way. We build a parzuf in which, in this entire parzuf of Adam HaRishon, there are only these first nine, but Malchut is not there. Malchut is here in concealment. And besides that, the worlds are ascended with Adam HaRishon to a state where he feels as if he's in Atzilut, as if it's permitted to receive all the lights, because till this place, until the Parsa, all the lights are permitted to be received. So Adam HaRishon, that is in a state where he thinks that now he can receive in order to bestow all the lights and reach a state like Malchut of Ein Sof, which receives in order to bestow everything, truly equal to the Creator. Why does he think this way? Because he doesn't feel that this Malchut, this central point, is in restriction and concealment in him. And when he starts to receive the lights from the state that he's in, as if he is totally in Atzilut, then the Malchut is revealed that is here and did not receive any sparks of bestowal. And then it turns out that he can receive in place of, in order to bestow, in order to receive. And it crashes. The screen is lost. What's the benefit from this? It's very simple. Here, Adam HaRishon, this point could not be included from the bestowal and not feel the Creator whatsoever. It was in darkness. After the shattering, all the sparks of bestowal of the first nine in potential, in this explosion, entered into this point, into this dark point. And once more we have in this point, just like after the shattering of the vessels, there are vessels of bestowal, vessels of reception, and an incorporation of vessels of reception and vessels of bestowal, and vice versa. We have four kinds of vessels. And as a result of this Adam HaRishon who shattered, there's nothing to do with it. But its parts, its shattered parts now, can go through scrutiny. Meaning now it's possible to take each and every part and see, can it be similar to the Creator or not? And then we start to correct. Galgalta and Nenaim are considered not corrected yet, but that in the future they will be corrected. They're called Jews. And the Achab are called the Gentiles. And the incorporation of Galgalta Enaim and Achab is where you have all the variations between vessels of reception and vessels of bestowal. And then in each and every one, and in all these souls, in all the parts, it crashed into 600,000 souls. There's already the possibility in each of them to make discernments, what's okay in me and what's not, in what each of my desires can be closer to the Creator or more distant from the Creator. What am I correcting first and what later? These discernments from generation to generation gather in the souls, in each of us, until they reach correction. And now we'll talk about the correction. But altogether, that is the process. The entire process thus far was in order to shatter Adam HaRishon into pieces, and for these parts now to go through the correction. Until the point of the shattering of Adam HaRishon, and until all these parts fall all the way to the end, to the Siyum, all in all, it's not considered that altogether there's a matter of a created being. This is all a matter of the Creator. He builds all these things and brings down the created being and shatters him and puts him through the last possible degree. That's called the expansion of the worlds and the parzufim and the souls from above downwards. After all these things, the work begins called the work of the created beings, the work of man. This is the ascent back from the lowest state of this world up to above and above to Ein Sof. This path from below upwards, we must do on our own. Why do we study what was done before us on the way from above down? In order to know precisely all the qualities that are happening here and learn from this how we can make our way back. Because actually, from above down, when the worlds were created, they built like filters, degrees in the bestowal of the light. And then for us to ascend, we need to precisely adapt ourselves in each and one of those filters, from degree to degree. That is called ascent. Hence, when we learn in the wisdom of Kabbalah about the expansion of light and the expansion of the vessels from above down, we actually learn them in order to use them when we ascend all the way to Ein Sof.
When I come to correct, do I correct the vessels of Adam HaRishon?
You correct the vessels of Adam HaRishon that belong to you. What's your name? No, look how beautiful! What a name. So, in Adam HaRishon, there's this part called Noam. That's the part you need to correct, to raise it to Ein Sof. In all the incarnations you've been through, I'm talking about the soul, not about this.
Not about the Noam.
Not this ginger Noam guy who's, where when I see you, I'm talking about the point of shattering that's in you, which is called the root of the soul. When you start developing it, that will be a soul. Now it's a black broken point that you are beginning through the study to invite upon yourself the surrounding light, and this point begins to expand. And this is like out of a seed or a sperm cell, a body develops, flesh and blood. And it's the same here. If you start developing and expanding, in place of 1 point, you'll have 5 points, and then 5 sfirot, and then a partsuf, a whole tiny one partsuf, and then that partsuf will begin to grow more and more and more, and it's just like a seed developed, or a semen develops into an embryo in the womb, same way in this process. And this development will be conscious, meaning you will have to do this in full awareness. Now, for the time being, you're at this black point, but you already feel that point. You don't yet know that it is a black point, but rather your desire for spirituality, which you're starting to feel now that is there, and that it's something that you don't yet know that it's for spirituality. If it's called spirituality, it's not black point anymore, because you're already feeling. But the fact that you feel a desire for something beyond that which is here, that is already an awakening of the black point. So that this desire will receive, so you'll receive this desire, even feel that black point, you had to go through 1,000 incarnations. Maybe less in you, in someone else more. It depends on the type of the soul, where you fell from what part of this partsuf of Adam HaRishon you fell from. And also, not just according to the part, but also according to its in its interaction with the complexes that are there, because it's not just in structure, it's also in volume. There are many qualities there. And then, as you've been through all this life in this world, as you were incarnated like a beast, meaning without a consciousness that there is an upper world and that you have some desire to return to it somewhat, meaning to live according to that inner point and not according to one's animalistic body. You didn't have such desires in the previous incarnations, but the fact that you've been through all kinds of sufferings, it was all absorbed in the records, and altogether the records in their accumulation reached a certain measure that in this incarnation you started to ask. From the frustrations that you want to reach, to implement this black point. Now, this black point is, in our diagram, it is here, and you are now starting to ascend from here, let's say, to the barrier. This time that you go through here is called the time of preparation. We can do this within 3 to 5 years, he writes in the introduction to the study of 10 Sfirot. It can be done in less, I'm not sure, but maybe around that amount of time it can be done. Meaning if we study, if we work in the group, if we do what we need, according to what is written in a clear way, the Kabbalists who write to us how, they write to us how to go through this process. After this process, you cross the barrier and enter a plane called the worlds of Bia, and then you already start to feel the Creator, to feel the light, to feel the spiritual reality. However, you feel it still like an embryo, let's say, where you feel seemingly that you belong to the upper one, but you can't distinguish something in him. Also in yourself, in your desires, you don't distinguish anything. In spiritual desires, meaning this point is still developing gradually and going through the degree of nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida, until it develops through a period called the 9 months of impregnation, the spiritual 9 months of impregnation, where your desires develop. And then you cross through that, and this is actually this actually it turns out this way. So it turns out that in the beginning, we have altogether a person needs to grow until Ein Sof, from the beginning. So the periods are as such. First, there are incarnations. Let's call it unconscious incarnations, where we're not aware.
They're correcting Rav's spelling in Hebrew.
Yes, unconscious or unaware. Now, there's a state which begins with a point. The point in the heart. And we begin to feel it. That's your current incarnation. Then a time comes called the time of preparation. This can be, he writes, from 3 to 5 years. This is thousands of years. What happens next? We cross the barrier.
פה מתחיל להיות מדרגות.
and the degrees begin. 125
מדרגות. למה?
degrees.
1, 2, 3,
Why?
5 עולמות.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 worlds.
עשייה, יצירה, בריאה.
So, עשייה, יצירה, בריאה, אצילות, אדם קדמון. Each has 5 פרצופים.
גלגלת,
Yes.
שק, מעבון,
גלגלת אב, פסג, מעבון,
כפול 5 ספירות.
and times 5 ספירות in each, 25 times 5, altogether 125 degrees.
זהו. עכשיו, כשנכנסים ממחסום,
Now, when we enter from the barrier onwards,
מה עושים?
so what do?
עוברים כל העולמות האלו
We go through all these worlds
עד עולם האצילות.
until the world of Atzilut,
נכנסים לעולם האצילות ובונים
and we enter the world of Atzilut and build here Galgalta and Ennaim.
שיש כבר גלגלת עיניים,
When there already is Galgalta and Ennaim, we start to join to Galgalta and Ennaim the coarseness from Bria
אביות מיצירה,
2, the coarseness from Yetzirah 3,
והאביות מעשייה.
and the coarseness from Asiyah 4.
זה נקרא ש...
This means that we add the achap of ascent. And then we have here, besides Galgalta and Ennaim, also plus achap.
עכשיו, שבונים,
As we build vessels of bestowal, we begin with, first as we enter here and cross the barrier, we have 3 days of absorption.
אחר כך מ'
Then
יום
40 days,
אבלד.
the creation of the offspring.
עד שמקבלים כל התכונות.
Because Mem 40 is Bina, until all the qualities of Bina, the initial ones, are received. Then
חודשי
9 months of impregnation.
חודשי עיבוד. בזה רוכשים
By this, the coarseness of root is acquired. Only
שנעשה
when
אביות שורש,
the coarseness at the level of root is made,
כדי לקבל אביות א',
then in order to receive coarseness phase 1, we need
תיקון שנקרא לידה.
to go through a correction called birth.
עם אביות א', יותר
Because with the coarseness 1, he becomes more independent,
מהעליון,
distances from the upper one at the expense of the upper one, and comes closer to the upper one at his own expense, and can already make some kind of actions.
אחרי לידה, שנתיים,
And then this is after birth, there's 2 years of yenika, of suckling.
שאז יש לו גם כן גלגלת ועיניים.
And then he also has galgalta and enaim, gadlut. I'm sorry, katnut.
ואחרי שנתיים יניקה,
And after 2 years of yenika, of suckling,
להיות גדול.
he begins to be big,
מה זה גדלות?
gadlut, maturity. What does it mean? Phase 2 of coarseness, 3 of coarseness, and 4 of coarseness.
ואחרי זה כבר
And after this already,
השוואת
equivalence
צורה
of form with the Creator.